about something that's very interesting. Thinking of moves, Dylan Raiola, 5-star quarterback for the University of Georgia, or maybe formerly for the University of Georgia. He has taken a visit to Nebraska. Of course, his uncle coaches for the Cornhuskers up there. His dad played there for the Cornhuskers. I want to say his dad's number is retired. I heard some people saying that this could be a leverage move by Dylan Raiola. Other people say that no, he actually very realistically could go play for Nebraska. Of course, it's been the biggest news here of the last couple of days. It's not every day that you see a quarterback make a decision and then not stand by it. Generally speaking, your quarterbacks decide pretty quickly, and then they are quickly becoming one of your biggest recruiters. He's been that for Georgia, but over the last couple of weeks, that's trended towards Nebraska. And of course, the biggest bomb of the week, Wilt Funk. He had a Wilt bomb and changed his crystal ball to Nebraska. Would you have any thoughts on this one, Ed?
Well, look, I will say this. I think it's unfortunate that this situation is playing out the way it has. And I don't mean with him making the decision or anything like that, but, with the frustrations of fan bases and message boards and nasty comments, stuff like that. I will say this. I'm glad it is taking place now as opposed to – because I don't know the ugliness that could be behind it. You remember a year ago when Jaden Rashada was headed to Florida and then came out he didn't get the NIL? Like, it's not that ugly to where we're dealing with, like, specific numbers and lies and promises, stuff like that. Look, the one thing I've learned over the past 15 years is if you're good enough, the NFL is going to find you. So I don't want to hear like you have to go to Georgia to get into the first round. Last time I checked, Georgia's not exactly pumping out first-round quarterbacks. Carson Beck hopefully can change that if he comes back.
We'll see.
But, yeah, I mean, look, this is the world you live in. And if you recruit and commit and someone comes in with a late NIL offer that they didn't have at the time you committed, like I'm not blaming these kids. No. I'm not blaming these kids for taking money, especially not. And look, everyone can judge for themselves the real reason that there's, as you wrote it up, drama or the potential of a change. You tell me if it's NIL money, if it's a chance to play immediately, if it's the fact that you don't have to go through a quarterback competition. Or quite honestly, there is a real scenario where it's just this is his family's legacy. And I think you have to accept. I know you may not want to hear it. I know you may want to say, well, for his future, going to Georgia is the clear and obvious answer of what he should. Look, if you feel that way, that's fine. But I don't think you can deny that there are some ties here that change some of the aspects of the discussion. And so if anything, this is, and I know, look, you have limited scholarships for schools and they want to fill out their class and know they got people coming. This to me is a reason why I think if I were a high school student athlete, I would not be committing early. I would leave my recruitment open and I would make sure that there's no second guessing. Nothing's changing my mind, that I am locked in. And it's so odd, and not even in this situation. I mean, yes, in this situation, but anytime we see a guy that's committed take official visits elsewhere, it's like, what are we doing here? Like, are you committed or not? And it just raises an unnecessary level of questioning and all that stuff. I have no problem if Dylan Raiola wants to go to Nebraska. I wish him well at Nebraska. I would love to see what he can do with that program. We know our buddy John Fricke is extremely excited about the potential of a guy like that going to Nebraska and potentially resurrecting that program, which needs to be resurrected. It is one of the historically great programs in the history of college football. There's no denying what it was, but also there's no denying what it has been the past 20 years. And there's also no denying what Georgia has become the past 20 years. I think if you're dealing with different schools and different scenarios, it wouldn't be this big of a deal. But you're also leaving the number one program or number 2, 3, whatever you want to rank Georgia nowadays, top 5 program to go to a Nebraska team that's somewhere in the 40s, right? I mean, the 30s, whatever you want it to be. So I understand that, but I just think the discussions are a little bit different. And look,
Yeah.
is NIL in play here? Absolutely. You can't deny it. That's the start of almost every discussion when it comes to recruitment for top players. But you also have to admit that I don't think this changes the fact that can he make it to the NFL from Nebraska?
Yeah. That
Yes,
doesn't
he
affect
can.
anything. That
Right.
doesn't affect anything.
And is there a very real family tie to this school? There is. And if it were different, maybe if there were extremely this came out of nowhere, we talk about it differently. I don't think we talk about it much differently. I think this is a guy that committed early, and kept his recruitment open unofficially, and changed his mind. And look, these kids are 18 years old. They changed their minds, and different factors came into play. And so here we are. And now look, the other aspect is he's not there yet. I mean, I think we all feel like he has to go at this point because of how it's played out. I don't think he can go back to Georgia at this point. And
I
that's
don't think that's true at all.
I think it would be odd and weird at this point. And I think that
They'd get over it.
I think
He'll
they
get
would
over it.
too. I agree with you. But it just a reminder that it is not official that he has he is physically at Nebraska, but you know what I mean, he is not signed for Nebraska yet. So
He hasn't even taken the visit yet. It's not.
well,
Till
I think he was
Saturday.
there I saw a picture
Not
of
till
him there
Saturday.
today. It may have been an old
15th.
it may have been an old picture. So
Friday, Saturday.
yeah, so it's kind of wild. It's kind of crazy. Like, why would the top quarterback or second best quarterback in the country want to not go to UGA? I understand that, but it's not quite as simple as that.
No, and I think the people who are sitting there freaking out. Of course, we're in Georgia, so we see all the Georgia fans going nuts about this. Plus, they have 14 different players who've entered the portal now. The world's not caving in. Aaron Rodgers said it best. RELAX. Relax. Georgia was not built on one player. They had never been built on one player. That was one of the reasons that they became what they are now. You look at this recruiting class, people are like, oh my God, they're about to lose Dylan Raiola. So what? It's okay. They have another 4-star quarterback that's included in this class as well. They're going to be just fine. If they lose Dylan Raiola over the weekend, they'll still have 14 top 150 players. They still have the number one class in America. Like, I'm not worried about them. I don't think Georgia fans should be worried about them either. This is a program that the only time that you should ever be worried is if you go to sleep one morning or go to sleep one day and wake up in the morning and you see the first thing you see when you open up your phone is that Kirby Smart's moving on to the NFL or Kirby Smart's retiring. That's when you should start worrying. I don't think that anybody needs to be freaking out over the decision of an 18-year-old boy. Just respectfully. I think Dylan Raiola can do a lot of big things and be the dude at Nebraska. I think if he goes and performs at the highest of levels, they'll build him a statue because you returned Nebraska to prominence. You come to Georgia and you do that same thing, you'll be celebrated. You won't have to pay for a drink ever again, but you're not going to be celebrated necessarily to the level that you would up in Nebraska. Just speaking candidly, and maybe that's based on no fact whatsoever. That's just based off of where the programs are right now and what expectations are when you come in. I think if he does go to Nebraska, good for him. I think that'd be great. Of course, he has the family ties there, and it would further perpetuate this myth that exists. I don't even want to call it a myth. It kind of isn't one at all. Georgia cannot get Buford kids. And for anybody watching this podcast from outside of Georgia, Buford High School is an institution. Buford High School is a football factory. For whatever reason, Georgia cannot get kids to commit from Gwinnett County. That factory over there at Buford High School, it's like 30, 45 minutes away from Athens, but they, for whatever reason, can never get a Buford kid. And one of the jokes was that Dylan Raiola transferred into Buford. They're like, hey, we're finally going to get our Buford kid. And then, of course, all this stuff starts happening right now. The only other one that I can think of that actually came from Buford actually is Isaac Nauta, played tight end at Georgia. He actually transferred to IMG Academy for his senior year, so he's not even technically a Buford kid. So I know that perpetuates some ridiculous stereotype that exists from Georgia and Buford, but I just thought it was funny. I wanted to throw that in there.
Real quick, you said something interesting, and I just want to spin it around on you and follow up. You
Sure.
talked about Georgia fans shouldn't panic. Unless they see Kirby Smart is retiring or heading to the NFL. Should Georgia fans panic if Carson Beck ends up going to the NFL or hitting the portal as opposed to returning?
I think that would be something to start being concerned about. Yes. Because of course,
and that's where you would tie this whole Raiola thing back is
yes,
it's not a big deal if Carson Beck does come back. It might be a bigger deal if he leaves. And
I'm
I
operating
don't
on the
think
assumption that
misleading,
Carson Beck
but
is coming back.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have no reason to believe. I saw some rumor. I think somebody tweeted about it today. Someone from our station, 92.9 The Game in Atlanta. I thought I saw somebody tweet about it saying, well, he's asking for $4 million to come back, which, okay, I don't know if that's true or
There's
not.
a reason it's a rumor and no one I actually know and trust has reported
Until
it.
I see somebody that I know is connected to the program tweet something about that or tell me something about that, I'm not gonna put any stock
I also
into
think
that necessarily.
there's a situation where you're just calling their bluff. It's like, all right, well, look, we'll give you 1.5 or whatever. We're not giving you 4. If you want to go into the NFL draft, good luck. Like good luck. And look, that's not the best. Like, you don't want him to return on bad blood or any of that stuff. But I do think there's going to be a lot more situations of calling these players bluffs than people think.
I think and that's probably what it's going to take to really reset this market, because I don't think this can continue where players are making 7-figure deals and then going out and saying, well, now I want this. Like, oh, okay, all right, someone's got to get a handle on it eventually. But ultimately, I think Carson Beck's going to come back and Georgia's going to be just fine. If they end up having to go with Gunnar Stockton, he's also a fantastic option at quarterback. He's a former 4-star recruit. You have another 4-star recruit coming in. If that's what they end up with, I think they'll be okay. It wouldn't be necessarily where a lot of people would want them to be, just as far as experience is concerned, because of course you have road trips to Texas and Alabama next year, and you want someone experienced under center in games like that. So I think it'd be interesting. I would be very surprised if Carson Beck doesn't come back, just based off of how this season has finished. Of course, with the SEC title game, they come up just short in that game, and then they don't get a chance to go play for a national championship. And one of the things that he was very adamant about, something he talked about a lot, was the fact that he wants to go win his own national championship. He doesn't count the ones that Stetson Bennett won as championships he won. He wants to be the starting quarterback of a national championship team. And I take him at his word for that.